Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Daily Racing Form handicappers Matt Bernier, Mike Beer and I will look at two important Grade 1 stakes races on the turf. The Fourstardave Handicap from Saratoga and the Arlington Million. Both of those previews will be presented by the Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase. We'll also have coverage of the Grade 2 Best Pal Stakes for 2-year-olds at Del Mar. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on a couple of races at Saratoga, and Craig Milkowski's Timeform US Spotlight focuses on the Arlington Million. There'll be horses to watch, best bets, and lots more, so let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our horse watch segment. We'll start off with Matt, who's very excited. One of his horse watches is running in the graded stakes race at Saratoga, the Saratoga Special on Sunday. I know you're excited about Barry Lee, but what other 2-year-old can we look forward to for the rest of the summer and into the fall?
Dancing Belle in Southern California for Keith DeSormo. This is a filly that she's still a maiden at this point, so she probably doesn't look all that sexy on paper, but we're going to take a look at her most recent start. This was last weekend in the Sorrento, and you're going to see her, she's just kind of, I don't want to say even, one pace, but you had a nice winner in this spot, Spectator for Phil D'Amato. The big thing to keep in mind about Dancing Belle, she's bred to go all day. She hasn't had the opportunity to go 2 turns just yet. The dam is a half the last gunfighter who wanted to run, forever in a day. She's by First Samurai. There's a part of me that wonders, again, Keith DeSormo, he's not one that gets these 2-year-olds cranked up very early. I wonder if she just needs a little bit of time. She slowly continues to take steps forward on the buyer scale. Get her around 2 turns. I think she could be interesting come Breeders' Cup time.
Plus, speed horses at Del Mar did very well last week, and she was, I think, up against the track. She finished willingly. I agree with Matt. When this one stretches out, she is one to watch, and she's still a maiden. She might be a nice price if she shows up in another graded stakes race. Now, Mike, I have to take issue with your horse watch.
What?
Yeah. Keen Ice is my son. Keen Ice, I've always been a big fan. Every time I've brought him up as a nice horse down the road, you're like, he's no good, and he's your horse watch?
Yeah,
what's going on?
I think I had some bad seafood. I didn't sleep very well last night. I liked Keen. This is what I like about Keen Ice, Dan. Maybe you were right about him all along. I'm not a huge fan of his, but here's what I like about him. I do think that Pletcher has gotten this horse good again, and I liked his Whitney. I know he was never going to win the Whitney, but this is him after a stumble at the start and Gun Runner just dominating this field right up on the pace. I like the horse, the run this horse puts in through the stretch. He gets up for second at the end, and what I like more about him maybe than anything else is we're getting down to the last couple of races of the year for this horse. Those last 2 races are probably going to be 1.25 miles. This horse wants 1.25 miles. I'm not so sure Gun Runner wants that distance, although we'll see going down the road because Gun Runner's been an improved horse. I like Keen Ice. I think he can win, if not both, then certainly one of his last couple of races as the year goes on.
And of course, the next race for Keen Ice likely to be the Jockey Club Gold Cup at 1.25 miles at Belmont, where he probably won't have to deal with Gun Runner. Right now, the plan for Gun Runner is, okay, we're going to show up in the Woodward at 1 1/8 miles, which is Gun Runner's distance, and then plan for the Breeders' Cup Classic. I agree with you about Keen Ice's race. He didn't have a lot of pace. We thought there was going to be a rabbit. We thought there was going to be a hot pace to give this horse a shot at 1 1/8 miles. It didn't work out. He didn't really break from the gate very well. Good effort for Keen Ice. Watch him at 1.25 miles. I'm going to Southern California. Let's take a look at Cambodia's win in the Yellow Ribbon Handicap last week. That's Avenge striking the lead, but only a brief lead while hanging on her left lead. Cambodia's in very good form for trainer Tommy Proctor right now. She rated off of this solid pace, came with a good strong run, and really got it done. She has been showing some different kinds of pace situations in her last 3 races. In her win at Pimlico 3 starts back, she was up close to a solid pace and came on home. She got a good trip. Her race prior to that at Parks, she was on and dueling on very solid fast pace. It didn't work out for her. She showed the ability to sit and pass several horses in the stretch, and I know Proctor is interested in stretching her out down the road. She's an interesting horse to watch in Southern California. Let's get to some handicapping. The Grade 1 Fourstardave Handicap is this Saturday at the Spa. Let's take a look at the field for the Saturday DRF.com Formulator Race of the Day, the Grade 1 Fourstardave Handicap. Our coverage is presented by the Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes events this weekend, visit video.drf.com, and remember to head on over to the Race of the Day event page on drf.com and download free Formulator Pass performances for the Grade 1 Fourstardave Handicap. Matt, the morning line favorite is the number 3 Time Test. He came over here with a big reputation. Let's be honest, he's flopped terribly twice, in my opinion.
He's much more sizzle than steak at this point. You look at that North American debut. I shouldn't say debut because he ran the Breeders' Cup a few years back, but he lost to Smooth Daddy, and it was a pretty disappointing loss considering he actually had taken the lead. And then he came back in the Manhattan, and I understand he had a pretty good trip, all things considered. Maybe the distance is what got to him. To me, at this point, he's supposed to get the job done. I'm still not entirely sold on Ascend. You see some of the other names in this spot. I got to be honest, it's just a race that I'm not interested in taking anyone out of, this one, the Manhattan.
Mike, he ran just fine in this race, the Manhattan, but the horse that beat him, Ascend, was close to 30-1. He came back and bombed at Ascend in the Bowling Green at Saratoga. When Time Test came over here, people were comparing him to Flincher. He's not Flincher. He could easily win the Fourstardave. Would you take 8-5 on this horse?
No, I wouldn't. I do like that they're going to go shorter with him in here. I think that could possibly help him, but we just saw that Manhattan. I don't have anything really to add to what Matt said about him. That was not a good loss for this horse who took, if he was as advertised, he would have won that race. He got a good trip. He had dead aim in the stretch. He wasn't good enough at the end of the day. They'll turn him back here. Maybe it'll work at 8-5. He's all yours.
Mike, you can make a case on just about every horse in this race, so why not go for a price? You like Bill Mott's #1 Bala Rocks 10-1 on Travis Stone's morning line.
Yeah, I just think there are some things to like about this horse. I think he fits really well in this field. He's sort of been improving right along for Bill Mott. I like the way that he's really developed this horse, and he got his graded stakes win last time in the poker over yielding ground at Belmont Park, and I thought he did some good things in this race. First of all, I like that he got more forward in this race because he's been shown a tendency to close in his races, and he's a good closer. But I like that Jose Lezcano put him closer to the pace. And while we're talking about the pace, let's just point out that this was not a slow pace in this race. This is yielding ground. The leader in this race went 23:46. It was a fast pace. He was close to it, and he digs in and stays gamely at the end to pick up a graded stakes win here. So I like that about him. I like that he has the inside draw going a mile on the inner turf here. If he can use that kind of positional speed and get up close once again in this race, I think he can pull the right trip and maybe pull off a little bit of an upset here.
He's really improved since Bill Mott put on the blinkers. Jimmy Ryerson did a really nice job with Disco Partner at the beginning of his career. But listen, Christophe Clement took over, 3 big performances, 2 giant figures, 1 world record, and he showed he could handle a distance last time out. Matt, you're going with the big gray Disco Partner.
Yeah, Clement's got him in just raging form right now. You brought up the run 2 back. That was in the Jaipur, and he broke land speed records going 6 furlongs, and that race has come back unbelievably live. His most recent start at a mile on the Forbidden Apple, I understand it was sort of the elongated 1-turn mile distance. I think he's going to be able to see out this mile. You're going to see toward the end here, he's going to pop back to his left lead. It's a little bit of a concern, but I just like the turn of foot that he shows. It's not just a 6 furlong or a 7 furlong type of run. He puts it in and he sustains it here for this mile. The only concern is his ability to go 2 turns. I know they tried it a long time ago with him, and he wasn't embarrassed. I believe he only lost by about a half a length, but that's the only reservation I have. It's going to be interesting to see. He's 2-1 in the morning line. I need him to float up from there into that sort of 3-1 range, but I think he has every right to win in this spot, and I think he's just as good, if not better, than most of his contemporaries.
Daunting Beyer speed figures does this horse bring into the fray. He is a major contender, to be sure. I'm going to take a chance with a horse that I have to admit, never really been a big fan of. It's the #2 American Patriot. Draw a line through his most recent race overseas. He didn't belong with those kind of horses. That race was not run to suit him at all. He was overmatched. 2 starts back, he won the Grade 1 Makers 46 mile. We're going to take a look at that race right now. He eases to the outside, and despite hanging on his left lead all the way down to the wire, he's able to pass the majority of these horses in the final 1/8 of a mile. American Patriot is a horse that he began his career, and you got the feeling that Todd Pletcher couldn't wait to get him going long. 1 mile and an 1/8 where he won the Kent Stakes at Delaware, 1 mile and a quarter where he ran an okay third in the Grade 1 Secretariat Stakes. But something tells me that American Patriot's kick is at his best at these sort of middle distance routes. 1 mile, 1 mile and a 1/16. Hopefully, American Patriot will get enough pace to set up his kick in the Grade 1 Fourstardave. Let's go to Nicole Russo's Pedigree pick. She's going to talk about 2 races on Saturday at Saratoga.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate from Saratoga, where Saturday's card has 3 very good maiden specials for 2-year-olds in addition to the Adirondack for 2-year-old fillies. A lot of interesting horses on this card. We'll start our conversation though by going back to one of the more noteworthy races of last year's Saratoga meet, the Grade 1 Spinaway for 2-year-old fillies, in which Pretty City Dancer and Sweet Loretta, both by Tapit, finished in a dead heat for the win. It was another red letter accomplishment for three-time leading sire Tappet, as it was believed to be the first dead heat for a stallion in a top-level event since Dawn of the Dance and Scenic, both by Sadler's Wells, won the Group 1 Dewhurst Stakes in 1988. We have a bit of a family rematch in Saturday's second race, one of those three good maiden specials on the card, as two fillies closely related to those two debut. Air Touch, who cost $450,000 as a yearling, is a full sister to Sweet Loretta, who loved Saratoga last summer, winning the Grade 3 Schuylerville here before moving on to the Spinaway and that dead heat. Sweet Loretta also won this year's Beaumont at Keeneland. She's a pretty quick filly, and her full sister Air Touch has shown some sharp works for Todd Pletcher. I think she's going to be formidable here. Now, another Tappet filly in this field, the Shadwell homebred Indy Maj, is out of Lear's Princess, who posted her biggest win in the 2007 Gazelle, defeating champion Rags to Riches. Lear's Princess has produced just one winner from 4 starters so far, but she is a half-sister to Pretty City Dancer. So pairing her with Tappet producing this filly is using a cross that certainly works. There's a third Tappet filly in this field, actually, in Get the Facts, whose Damn Delightful Mary was a very good 2-year-old herself, finishing third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Delightful Mary finished 5th on debut at Saratoga, hitting the gate at the break. Definitely eligible to improve here, and she might be a bit of an underlay. Now, I do also want to take a quick look at the 6th at Saratoga on Saturday for 2-year-olds on the turf. These are really fun races, and there's an interesting horse in here, something that we haven't seen a lot of in the United States yet, in Sportswear by Frankel. The unbeaten 2-time European Horse of the Year has already been so good at stud, producing Japanese Oaks winner and champion Soul Stirring, Group Stakes winners Queen Kindly, Mi Suerte, Eminent, Fair Ava. Sportswear is out of Epsom Oaks winner and group producer Casual Look. Should love every bit of this distance. And another who should do well at this trip is Tejas Ranger from the first crop of the outstanding turf horse Point of Entry. This is about the time of year when I think those are going to start running well. They definitely want routes on the grass. Don't forget that Dan Illman and I take a closer look at 2-year-old racing at Saratoga in Spa Babies, sponsored by WinStar Farm, available throughout the meet from DRF TV. In the meantime, we'll be back with a look at the Arlington Million on Out of the Gate after these messages.
North America's first yearling sale for horses with turf appeal is coming to Fasig-Tipton. Selected yearlings by the nation's top turf sires. The Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase presented by Woodbine Racetrack, September 10th in Lexington, Kentucky. Where will you be?
Luxair Jets is excited to announce the new, most convenient way to fly nonstop from Lexington to historic Saratoga Springs throughout the racing meet. We are now offering exclusive group packages on our luxurious private jets. Each package offers a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you can share with your friends, family, or business partners. Call for pricing and availability.
Coming up this summer, it's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm. Every Wednesday through Sunday during the Saratoga meeting, Nicole Russo and I will analyze the best 2-year-old races at the spa. We'll go beyond the past performances and discuss pedigree, trainer patterns, workouts, and more. It's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm every Wednesday through Sunday at video.drf.com. Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for the prestigious Grade 1 Arlington Million. It is the 35th edition of this historic race. As usual, we have an international cast. It's a full field. It is a great betting race, and our coverage is presented by the Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races at Arlington, all the graded stakes races coast to coast this weekend, please visit video.drf.com. Timeform.com. We scratched the number 9, Scottish, one of the European invaders. Mike, let's talk about the number 11, Divisadero, a Keeneland graduate. Julien Leparoux rides 5-1 on the morning line. As we see from his race at Churchill Downs, the Turf Classic, he has a potent kick. This race was at 1 1/8. Is his kick better at this distance than at 1 1/4?
I think so far, based on his lifetime past performances, you would have to say yes. It's better at 1 1/8, and maybe even better at Churchill Downs than it is anywhere else. He loves that track and that race. They've tried 1 1/4 with him 3 times in his career. Now, all of them have been at Belmont Park, but he hasn't run his best race, I don't think, in any one of those 3 starts. I just sort of feel like when I watch him run the 10 furlongs, I think that late kick is a little bit dulled the longer this horse goes.
At times, Matt, he's been a little bit of an in-and-outer. He gets washy and sometimes worked up before his races, and really the key to him is pace.
Yeah, certainly. You're going to need something up early to really set up that late finish, but as you guys already alluded to, you have to wonder if this additional distance at 1 1/4, it's not that he can't get the 1 1/4, it's just maybe that late kick, that potent late kick, is dulled a little bit.
Now, Kasaki, your top selection in this race, Matt, has done some good work at shorter distances, but he showed in last year's Arlington Million he can step at 1 1/4. What do you think of his form coming into this race?
Well, the most recent start, the Arlington Handicap, doesn't bother me too much because there wasn't a lot of pace signed on, and he was mired sort of outside. And he did come on at the very end. You bring up the sort of the distance concerns with Divisadero. I suppose I could echo the same thing with Kasaki, but we're going to take a look at last year's Arlington Million. And, he got a really good trip. I think he got a really good ride this day as well. I wonder if you're going to need a situation like that or an instance like that for him to truly get out to the 1 1/4. You're seeing him right now. He's splitting horses. He's still in a little bit tight. He is going to come through, though, with that big white face. I don't know. I mean, I think this is a race for me anyway that just seems like a bit of a crapshoot. I'm not sold on the Europeans coming over here. I'm also not sold on any of our real domestic hopes. And I think Kasaki, he should offer some decent enough value. Hopefully he's in that 6, 7, 8-1 range.
I really like his tactical speed. He's obviously done some good work at Arlington in the past. He should be getting the jump on horses like Divisadero turning into the stretch. A horse that might be getting the jump on Kasaki is Mike's top selection, Beach Patrol. He was aggressively ridden last time out in the United Nations. He's now picking up Joel Rosario. I think he'll be sitting in stalking range this time.
Yeah, I like the rider change for this horse, and I just sort of agree with everything Matt sort of said about this race, where I just don't really love anybody. I think trips are going to be very important in this race. The Europeans didn't really catch my attention. I'll give Beach Patrol one chance. And listen, he's got to find a way to finally get to the winner's circle, something he has not been able to do this year. His last win came over this turf course, over this distance last year as a 3-year-old in the Secretariat. He hasn't won since, but he's been close several times. And I think if you look at his PPs and you see all these close second place finishes, you sort of feel like he's got a little hang in him. Maybe there's a little bit of a character flaw. I don't really look at him that way. I just think he's been unlucky in some races where he's run really well. That includes the UN last time. I mean, I don't know what was going on. We're going to pick this up in the stretch here, and he's just going to sort of try and fight out a finishing position here, and he'll get third. I don't know what they were doing early in this race, guys, but they just went way too fast. He dueled the pace the entire way. Here come the closers to swallow him up at the end. I thought he ran really well again, didn't get lucky again, and he settled for third. I'm hoping he gets a little bit lucky on Saturday.
Matt, I'd like your thoughts on the United Nations. It was an aggressive ride, but I think you have a different way of looking at it. Those were the 2 horses to beat on paper. They went at it, and may the best horse win.
You can't excuse getting hooked in a duel like that, but at the same time, when you looked at that race going into it, they were the 2 horses that laid over the field, and they were the 2 horses that figured to be forwardly placed. I'm not suggesting that I'm giving him a complete pass, but at the same time, I understand you don't want to give the tactical advantage up to your main competition and say, I may never get to the front again. You may just take this field gate to wire.
The Arlington Million has featured some very good European horses over the years, and I'm hoping that Aidan O'Brien is bringing another one in, DeVille. Let's go back again to the 2016 Arlington Million, where DeVille, as a 3-year-old, fresh off of a victory in the Belmont Derby, was tackling some good older horses. And I like to describe him as sort of a pauper's Highland Reel. He's not as good as that horse, but he has an Americanized running style where he likes to actually be forward. A lot of Europeans don't break well. They come from way out of it. This horse likes to be forward. And remember, he doesn't win this race, but he is a 3-year-old taking on older horses. He is supposedly and theoretically stronger now as an older horse. His last race, some might be a little bit disappointed that he lost his prep for the Arlington Arlington Million. He had a nice, easy lead at a short price, and he was beaten by a Godolphin horse that's been more of a bridesmaid throughout his career. But I'm going to trust Aidan O'Brien use that race as a prep. I think he's going to be close to the pace as he was in last year's Arlington Million, get the jump on some of these turning into the stretch, and I'm hoping the great Ryan Moore can boot home the number 5 DeVille in the Arlington Million. Let's get back to some good old-fashioned American dirt racing. The best pal for 2-year-olds is at Del Mar. The feature race at Del Mar this Saturday is the Grade 2 Best Pal Stakes for 2-year-olds. Let's take a look at this field. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races this weekend, please visit video.drf.com. We've got 2 horses that are going to take the lion's share of the money, gentlemen. The number 1, Runaway, for Simon Callahan, 8-5 morning line favorite. The number 5, Serengeti, for Bob Baffert and Mike Smith at 9-5. Mike, let's talk about Serengeti, a second-time out winner with blinkers for Baffert last time out. He was so impressive.
Yeah, he was a really impressive winner of his second career start. You're right, Baffert put the blinkers on. He got bumped at the start of his debut and he got tired about mid-stretch of that race. The second time out, though, he didn't get tired in this race. I mean, he went right to the lead in this spot. The horse that's right behind him right here tried to go with him and just was no match for Serengeti, and he'll put on a show from here, guys. He just romps away from this field. He's in hand under the wire for Mike Smith. I mean, based off of this race, who knows how good this horse is. Baffert takes the next logical step with him, I think, in the best pal. I was suitably impressed. I'll take him.
This is an Oklahoma bred by Algorithms. Matt, I'm interested in your take on the pace scenario in this race. The 2 favorites both have similar running styles. They like to be close to the pace. Do you think we're going to get a big duel?
Yeah, I think they're going to go, and it's also worth noting you also have other speed in this race too. It's not just the 2 favorites. I don't know that the other speed is necessarily the same quality as the 2 favorites, but I think it's going to be honest enough up front, and I think if you have anyone or you like anyone coming from slightly off of it, I don't think pace can be used as the excuse.
Mike, I'm interested in your thoughts. I think that Mike Smith and Baffert have enough confidence in Serengeti that they don't want to get involved in a hookup duel with Runaway. I think they're going to let Runaway get to the lead. He won't get too far away, but maybe a length. I don't think we're going to get that cutthroat duel. Fair play for both of them.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. At least in Serengeti's case, you know, he's got the better post position on the outside, Runaway down in the rail. I guess he's got to come out of there running. You know, when I look at these races, though, guys, I just feel like 2-year-old races, especially with these lightly raced horses, these races are about speed. They're not about trips. They both have speed.
Matt, your pick in this race bears a striking similarity to your horse watch. Another Kent and Keith DeZormo 2-year-old. The last one was Dancing Bell. Tell us about Fleetwood.
Yeah, Fleetwood is a horse debuted most recently, was down on the inside, and we're going to take a look at the replay. Just kind of stayed on. It wasn't anything flashy, nothing that you're going to really, remember or be scorched into your memory, but at the same time, I kind of feel like this was a good enough starting off point, particularly the fact, again, down on the inside may not be the most comfortable spot for a first-time starter. The horse stayed on. This horse is by Munnings, and I'd like to think that, again, if you get 2 or 3 horses that want to go early on, this horse has already had a race over the Del Mar Strip, which apparently all the trainers in Southern California, or the vast majority, are saying it's deep, it's tiring, it's advantageous to have some experience over it. He's already got that. He may not be quite as good as the top 2 in here, but maybe he gets a little bit of a setup here, and he's definitely going to be a nice price.
I thought he got a strong education in that race, breaking from the inside and on the chase throughout, and he's got that strong stamina on the bottom of his pedigree. His broodmare sire, of course, is Thunder Gulch. I think the number 1 Runaway can control this race from the start. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of value to be had. 2 for 2 in his career. Nice debut winner going 4.5 at Santa Anita, and he followed that up against stakes competition in his most recent start. Let's take a look at that race, the Santa Anita Juvenile. He hooked up with the runner-up from the start. They're going a pretty good clip, and eventually he asserts his dominance in the last 1/8 of a mile as a good odds-on favorite should. He wasn't as brilliant visually as Serengeti, where Mike Smith never really got out of the pistol grips and was sitting like a statue. Here, Flavien Prat had to get after this horse, and I wonder if that's going to actually help him out as he prepares for battle with a couple of good horses in the Best Pal Stakes. I think Runaway, we'll find out how good he is down the road. We'll find out how good he is on Saturday in the Best Pal Stakes, but I think he has a good chance to take this field wire to wire. Best bets coming up.
Hi, this is Craig Mikowski, speed figure analyst for Timeform US for this week's Out of the Gate segment. Today we're going to look at the Arlington Million, a Grade 1 mile-and-a-quarter race on turf. It's been around for a while. I think it was the first $1 million race. And it's drew quite an interesting field, a big field of 13, including some shippers from overseas, as well as a large U.S.-based contingent. So the race looks a little bit on the weak side from a Timeform US race rating perspective. We have it pegged at 124, whereas a 127, 128 is usually what you get for a grade 1. But what it lacks in quality, it definitely is making up for in quantity. It should be a great betting contest. The first thing we want to look at is the Timeform US pace projector. One thing you will notice is that 3 of the horses are not listed in the pace projector, and we make a little note of that, showing that because they've raced overseas, we really don't have any projections for them. The pace projector is not showing whether, that the race may favor early or that it'll have a fast pace. So we'll have to dig a little deeper, and let's look at a couple of those horses. The first one is number 9, Scottish, who's shipping in from England. And he's pretty easy to see how he likes to run. If you look in the right-hand column at his comments from their track guy over there, every single one of them, he's either led or been right up close. So I don't think there's very much doubt where he's going to want to be positioned in this race. He's going to want to be either right up on the lead or close to it. And he will definitely help ensure that the pace won't be weak. It should be a pretty strong pace. Notice his Timeform ratings also. He topped out at 122 in his last race, which makes him quite competitive in this field. And given that he's getting Lasix here in the States, I expect him to improve on those even a little bit more. So I definitely consider him a strong contender. Another horse is Mektal. He's also shipping in from England. He's raced in France some, and he comes in with some decent Timeform ratings, 120s, 121s. And you'll also notice in his comments, you'll see some lead. He likes to be up and close to the pace. But one interesting note on him is he's not necessarily guaranteed to be up there like Scottish is. One of the features of Timeform US PPs is you can click into the running line and you can see the expanded Timeform comment. And while most of them show that he likes to be near the front, the last one indicates that he was more patiently ridden, taken back, and ran one of his better races. Even though his finish position wasn't as good, it was a stronger race and he ran well. So the person that made that comment seems to think that's the way he likes to be ridden, and that maybe that's where he'll be in the million. So pace factor maybe, but no guarantee with that one. Another foreign shipper is Deauville. We should be familiar with him because he ran in this race last year as a 3-year-old. He is the morning line favorite and very much the horse to beat. He's run 124 Timeform US ratings his last two times out. He's once again getting Lasix as he did here last year. And I just really like the confidence they showed with this horse last year. He won the Belmont Derby as a 3-year-old. And instead of running in the Secretariat, they jumped him up against Older into the Arlington Million, where he ran a very respectable third, only beating a half length, closing into a bit of a slow pace. So I think he is definitely the horse to beat here. I don't want to ignore the U.S. horses totally. There's definitely one that interests me, and that would be Ascend. Ascend won the Manhattan very impressively, and then last out in the Bowling Green, he went off, bet down the 9-5, and the race may have been a little longer than he likes, and not only that, he moved into a really hot pace. You can see the pace figures of the race. As they were increasing, he was making his move. He got right up to the leader and then kind of faded out when some late runners came and ran everybody down in that race at fairly big prices. But I think the turn back in distance, the fact he ran that 125 in a Manhattan, and also the fact that his trainer is showing he's bringing him back in just 2 weeks, which I never think is a negative. You hear a lot about rest, but horses tend to, when they're in good form and you run them back, they usually tend to run to it. So of the American contingent, Ascend is the one I'm going to be keeping an eye on, and I like his 10-1 morning line odds. That's it this week for Timeform US. We'll head back to the studio and Dan for more Out of the Gate.
Time for our best bet segment. Matt Bernier, we will begin with you. You're going to the Arlington Million undercard in the Pucker Up Stakes.
All right, listen to me here. It's the nightcap on Arlington Million Day. It's the Pucker Up 3-year-old fillies on the turf. Sensitive. We're going to take a look at her most recent start. This was her first time out for Brad Cox down at Ellis Park. She's going to come widest and fastest. She's there in the yellow cap. It's going to take a little while. She's only going to win by a half length. She was 4 or 5 wide the entire way, and then she was about 9 path turning for home. She just gets up in the nick of time. I think now that we're going to get second start off the bench, And look, it's even in slow motion. That's how impressive she was. We're going to go on with it from there. Listen to me. You're going to put all your money on her to win on Saturday afternoon. Then from there, you're going to parlay it into Sunday with Barry Lee when he wins the Saratoga Special. That's it. That's a mic drop.
And out of the gate, parlay, a mic dropper. The day's best on Saturday, though. 2-day parlay. We'll do sensitive into Barry Lee and the Saratoga Special. Mike Beer, nothing so grandiose. You're only going with one best bet this weekend. But NYRA analyst Mike Beer at Saratoga.
Yeah, Saratoga, the fourth race is the Grade 2 Adirondack co-feature on that Saturday card for 2-year-old fillies. I like limited view in this race. Number 6, she's shipping in from Laurel off of this debut run for John Salzman, who does a really good job with his 2-year-olds. This filly, they paid just over $5,000 for her. She has almost zero pedigree, but she ran like a horse who's they paid $1 million for in her debut. I thought I loved her debut. I like how she got away from this field through the stretch. They had her entered in the opening day stake up there, the Schuylerville. They elected to scratch and wait for this. I like that because I like this field better for her. She's going to have to get 6.5 furlongs here. That could be a problem, but I think if she gets it and runs either as well as she did first time out or improves upon it, I think she can beat this field.
I'm going to stay true to one of my horse watches here on Out of the Gate. Cerro was a horse watch off of a win at Churchill Downs, and Cerro is entered back at Saratoga. Race number 9, a race that features the return of Gift Box, and I'm sure you're familiar with Gift Box. He did a lot of good things as a 3-year-old last year for Chad Brown, but Gift Box did his big work going long, and he's going to have to go 6 furlongs off the layoff against a razor-sharp Cerro. Let's watch Cerro's most recent race at Churchill Downs, and it appears that this horse has been reborn lately, sprinting on the dirt. He began his career as a turf router. He's run at various distances, various surfaces, but I like the way he finished this field, and this race was fast, a 96 buyer effort. He was claimed out of this race, and it's now a reclaim for the Rapoli Stables and Bruce Levine. Cerro has a very solid outside post position. He excels at 6 furlongs, and the price has to be right because you know that Gift Box with those gaudy class lines is going to take a lot of money. I think we're catching Gift Box in a weakened state off of the layoff. I'm not sure he's as good a horse as Gift Box is, but I think off the layoff, Cerro can beat him on Saturday, race 9, number 9. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.